Okay, hi everybody. It's been a roller coaster of a few months, literally. In January, every year, actually. Let me start by saying, just this month, I celebrated my last month 22 years of practicing law. It's hard to believe. And every year, I think this process cannot get more complicated or more nerve-wracking. And I surprise myself every year with all the, beneficiary centric, this, the other. I mean, the list of things that we went through this year and still going through like never before. And I still have not seen a significant improvement in the process. So please, I mean, I thank you for being part of this. I also know if you don't, you don't play, you don't win. And not that this should be a game in any shape or form. It really upsets me that this is how we select for nationals. But that's kind of my little intro. Just know that we've been doing this for a long time. Sometimes I wonder, should I be doing something else? Because this is just not uplifting at this stage. But then I get all the emails, my team and I, from you all, on the wins, on the hopes. And this is why we're here. This is why we do it. And this is why we don't quit. So, I started saying, for some of you that just come in, there's a variety of you here with various potential options, various things that you may have to do. So this is a very general overview, just to at least get you thinking and understanding how this works, and give you some insights. And we will follow up more specifically with you all. But I kind of wanted you to get an overview. Now, also note, many of you have been following this from the beginning with me. We have right now some priority filings of those that were selected that we have to file within the next few weeks. Those are, priorities. I also have some foreign nationals that this was their last STEM OPT and they're running out of work authorization. They are also our priority. Not that you are not a priority, but I also have to balance the ones that we need to help first. Is kind of, the putting the oxygen mask on those that we can. Some of you have the oxygen mask on, so just don't take it off for a little bit. Okay. All right. I'm going to talk about F1 student work authorizations, because to me, that is the one that most of you will benefit from. Most of your employers will benefit from. And then some of the other non-immigrant visas, employment authorization documents, and other things that are out there that can be considered, should be considered. So let me just, we're going to be here for about 45 minutes. So, and again, I'm going to be covering a lot of information. You learn best, and I know I'm the worst because I multitask all the time, but as much as you can, come in with me and follow along and interact so that you get the best out of this. Okay. Again, as I said at the beginning, every case is unique. Each one of you, even though you may be on a STEM OPT, you may be whatever the option is. Everyone is their own, they have their own case. So this is very general. About me, many of you have been working with me for a while. Again, 22 years of practicing law, and about 18 of those immigration. And again, when I feel like quitting, I kind of say, no, I'm going to use my energy, my experience, my passion to do what I do best. So here we are. I was trying, as I was preparing this presentation, I also had to work on my own mindset and try to be positive. But I tell you, it is a very frustrating process for you, for us, for anyone involved. Nerve-wracking. Some of you I know were waiting all weekend, kind of say, was I selected? I was on the computer all weekend just trying to figure out what was happening. Lots of glitches, just not a good place. Our energies are best invested somewhere else, but it is the process we have. For many of you too, this is brand new. So I wanted to give you an idea of how this lottery selection works. And literally it wasn't our cases, but it's very, very close to our cases. Again, many glitches. The lottery was actually conducting well. There were still side issues, and much more. I don't know if that's going to have any repercussions in all of this, but the new system was certainly not up to putting them through a lottery. It's the worst that it's ever been. As an example of how the process works, if we had 100 registrations, typically, well, sometimes an hour, and again, this is not ours, but it's pretty close to ours. We typically have more US masters than regular caps. So I should have put 60-40 because that's typically what we end up with. And typically we have one or two companies that we have the majority of the registrations for, in the range of 40 or so. As this example, because this is typically what happened. If you anyone that filed about 40 registrations, they got anywhere from 10 to 15 selections. And then, so taking this example further, say, we have another 50 registrations from 8 different companies. And what literally happened is one or two of those companies got a few selections, 4 or 5, and the other ones got none. And at the end of the day, the selection rate for this year, from all the reports that I have seen, it ranges between 16 and 25%. Now, granted, some of our clients, we registered 3 people and 3 people got selected. But obviously, some of our clients, we register 1 or 2 or 3 and none got selected. So it is a lottery. And it shouldn't be this way, but this is the way it is. So hopefully this gives you a little bit so the more people we put into the lottery for a particular company, typically the more people get selected, foreign nationals get selected from that company. And then as we have less and less selections, their chances are less and less to getting selected. And that's how we end up with this, 16, 25% selection now. I'm never very hopeful on second lotteries. But I will address that at the end. For most of you, and what I have told everybody from the beginning of time when we've been doing this, almost assume that there will not be a second lottery. If there is, yay. And last year there was one, and we had more selections in the second lottery than we had in the first lottery. And of course, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for that, but you cannot make decisions on that. So I really need you to start making decisions based on the information I'm going to give you today and other information that you may have, because again, your particular situation may be very different. Okay, F1 students and work authorization. Primarily 3 types that employers can benefit from and that you can work for an employer for. One is CPT, and I'm going to go into a lot more detail into CPT because most of you may be familiar with the traditional curriculum practical training, which is after you're enrolling in school for 1 full year, you can apply for CPT. There's another less traditional form of CPT that is day 1 CPT. I'm not endorsing day 1 CPT, but I want you to know that it's available and I have information about it. To take advantage of CPT, you have to be enrolled in school. The training that you take as part of your curriculum is part of the work that you're doing is part of your curriculum, and that has to be part of the basically your curriculum in the school has to include this work period. It is authorized by the designated school official, not by USCIS. The job and the training must be secured. So you have to have a job offer, job opportunity before the CPT is approved. And if you do the traditional CPT, not the non-traditional, 1 year or more CPT eliminates your opportunity for OPT. And this is important to know because for some of you, you may decide to go back to school the traditional way and do CPT, which is fine as long as it follows all the other rules. But if you use too much of it, then you cut yourself out of the 1 year of OPT at the end, and that's not good. So again, keep all of that in mind. OPT is probably the most used out of all these three. And that's what many of you are in, have been in, potentially could get back in. It is approved or authorized by USCIS. You need your I-20 supporting by the DSO. It could be done pre or post graduation, authorized by USCIS. And this is something else for some of you to consider that who may be looking into going back to school. You will get OPT again for another 12 months if you advance the degree level. So if you go back to a master's degree and you have a master's degree, you will not get another 12 months of OPT. But if you have a bachelor's and go to a master's, so if you have a master's and go to a PhD, at the end of that, you will get, or you will be eligible for OPT for 12 months. And then the last, and there's very few things in my whatever 18-year career of immigration that are of significant value to the employers that we work with and to you all. And you may have heard me say this, I adore CPT. I know CPT is STEM OPT because it's an opportunity that became available about 5-6 years ago before a STEM OPT. After your OPT was done, there was nothing else. You would either go home, you would go back to school, or you would do some of the other things that I'm going to talk about. But right now, for those of you that have the availability to have a STEM OPT, and that's why I recommended it all the way from the beginning, it is here. It's here for you to use. Okay. This is a gift, and it's 2 years that would allow you to continue to work and also to continue to potentially take advantage of putting yourself in the lottery. Okay. It's always post OPT. Training is in the field of study. The Form I-983 needs to be completed by the employer and the employee. I am going to talk about that a little more because maybe I know some of you are going to have to complete that form, which again, it can be a little pain in the behind, but for the benefits of 12 months of work authorization, well worth it. 24th month extension, again, approved by USCIS, approved by the DSO, authorized by USCIS with an EAD. It has to be a designated U.S. STEM degree. Another gift for you is that last year, USCIS increased the number of degrees that were designated U.S. STEM degrees. I think I have that in another slide, which gives, a little bit more variety there is a limited number of designated degrees, but now we have a few more, so that's good. And something else that just came up recently is the employer needs to be enrolled in E-Verify. Not that came up recently, it came up in one of the questions that I received. And I thought, oh, shoot, yeah, that, because most of my clients are enrolled in E-Verify. So if that's not the case, that is something that the employer needs to do to facilitate or to really get the STEM OPT for the foreign national. In the past, I used to tell employers, clients, don't bother enrolling in E-Verify. It's a pain. It's another step. Doesn't bring any benefits to you. But more and more, the government is making it more appealing for employers to enroll in E-Verify. I would do more trainings on this for employers, but just know that is becoming a better thing to do these days. Okay. All right. A lot covered here. So this is, you will get the recordings. This is a really a good slide for you to review if you're not familiar with the options. Okay. So we have traditional CPT. This is what most likely most of you are familiar with. You complete 1 full year of academic studies, and then you can apply for CPT. Again, the school approved it using the I-20. It is typically a fairly quick approval, 1 to 2 weeks, no filing, but of course you have to pay tuition. Per degree, and long-term use is a red flag. As I mentioned before, you need a job offer to apply, okay? Some of you may be using CPT already. I don't think that I had many that went through the lottery, but there were a few. And I wasn't sure if there was CPT or day one CPT. Okay, so this is the one that is non-traditional. It is non-traditional in a sense you're not going to find a university like in Florida, let's say University of Florida or Harvard or, none of the bigger universities or the most known universities offer day one CPT. Day one CPT, I think it's an innovation that has been created as a result of the need. It is somewhat frowned upon by USCIS. So you have to, if you go down this path, and the benefit of day one CPT is that, say you were not selected on the lottery, you want to go back to school, but you want to continue to work. There are these programs where you can work and study from the first day of academic program. So rather than having to wait 1 full year doing your first year of master's degree or your first year in PhD, you can work and go to school at the same time. So traditional 1 full year, not required, only available for graduate or higher level studies. So I don't think you're going to find a bachelor program with a day one CPT. It's typically a master's, a few PhDs, not many, at least from last year. But this is the piece that it requires due diligence and planning. Many of these schools are sketchy. So you really, and don't come to me or our team to recommend which one, because I don't really keep track of who's good or who's bad. That's not my job. But my job is to let you know that if you go down this path, which some of you may have to or may want to, you do need to do your due diligence. You have to talk to other students going to school there, see what their experience is, see if they have had any issues with USCIS. I tell you, for us, when we file, if you were going through day one CPT, which is legal, otherwise the schools wouldn't be there. However, some schools push the legality to the extremes. So that's where you have to be careful. But you also have to be very careful that you keep really, really good records. Last year, we had to respond to a request for additional evidence on a candidate that was on day one CPT, similar to some of you, did not get selected on the lottery in the first year or the second year for that matter, went to day one CPT for those 2 years, almost finished. I think by the time we filed his H1B, he had finished his degree. And in fact, it was kind of starting on the next one. And we got a request for additional evidence from USCIS as to maintenance of status. And we had to produce, and we knew this ahead of time. So when we filed his H1B, we already gave him a list of things to start collecting, and he had it because he knew. And I have a separate video that I'm going to mention to you on day one CPT that you can learn more about it. But again, I'm going to move on from day one CPT, but I know this is going to be an option for some of you. Just make sure you do your due diligence and that you keep good records. And when I mean good records, it's not just transcripts. We had to submit lodging evidence that they had, rented an apartment or gone to an apartment to live in the school for the weekends, travel to the schools. I mean, it was pretty ridiculous, and the case got approved. Okay. Then here's the STEM OPT EAD that, again, I'm so grateful that it's there for so many of you. Only certain STEM degrees are apply, provides a 24-year extension, enrolling A-Verify, completion of the I-983, timing. I've been saying this from the first presentation that I did on this. And I hope none of you missed it, because I know many were vacillating. Oh, well, I'm going to be entered into the lottery. Should I apply for CPT? Well, no one knows who really is going to be selected. So, and the timing, as you all know, there is like 90 days before your OPT ends. It's very, very tight. So if you're in that situation and you need to apply for a STEM, please do it very, very soon. Every so often, I get the people that put it in the mail too late, the mail got lost, whatever it is, and they lose a huge opportunity. Don't be that person. Something interesting about STEM CPT is, of course, you can consider future degrees, but also you may be able to obtain a STEM OPT based on prior, so a U.S. bachelor's degree, for example. I'm not going to get into all of this detail. I just, again, want you to know that there is a little bit of variety here. We are not the experts on F1s. Your DSOs are. That's what they go to school for. That's what they get certified on. They're your best resource. We kind of give you the, some general insights that you may not get on your own. Okay. These are the 4 degrees or codes, actually, that were added to the STEM engineer CIP code 14, biological and biomedical sciences code 26, mathematics and statistics code 27, physical sciences code 40. So those are new from last year. I hope that also brings you some, options. And then here's the I-983 training plan. Even as of today and yesterday, I've gotten some questions about this. The I-983 is a document. I can't remember, it's 5-6 pages now. It looks overwhelming. It looks scary, but really if you are having to do one of these, do not overthink it. The DSOs, again, are a tremendous resource. It does not need to be perfect. It does not get filed with USCIS. It is something that the DSO reviews, keeps, and uses to approve your 20. And they also can give you some suggestions as to what needs to go in here. We have a very, very detailed outline. I think it's like 4 pages long, almost give you examples of what to do with each one of these boxes. So if you need to complete the I-983 or you have questions about it, you can reach out to one of your paralegals. We can provide you with a copy of, our sample of what we have put together to help you review and put this together. Okay. But well worth it, considering what you get as a benefit. Okay. So those are, the questions, that's what I have in terms of OPT. I see a hand raised, and I'm going to try. What I'm going to ask you, if you can, just sure, go ahead and type your question. I'm going to try to answer questions as long as they're general, so that I can move on, because otherwise I can get caught up on answering questions and I cannot get through the presentation. And also, okay, cool. Okay, options beyond DH. Again, I hope that the recap of F1 has been good for all of you. Now, for some of you, you may have employment authorization documents that are atypical or typical. For example, and this happens not hugely, but we do have some people that potentially could apply for EAD TPS, potentially could apply for asylum EAD. potentially could apply for an H4 EAD because they're a spouse. And H4 EADs are very, very, very limited. So don't think that if you're married to someone that is on an H1B, you can get an H4 EAD. It is limited. Literally, I can't remember if it's only like 20,000 people in the United States that can qualify for that right now, but it's something like that. So it has to be your spouse is an H1B, has an I-140 approved, and you are the beneficiary of that. And potentially you can apply for an H4 EAD. But for some of you, this may be the only option. Okay. Then we have TPS, which is certain countries have been designated for temporary protected status. All of these statuses are not like solid, and that's why the H1B will be your most solid status, and all the F1s that I cover are probably more solid than any of this. But again, I'm going broad here just to give you ideas. The L2s are spouses of L1s, E2s, and E3s. Also, their spouses have the ability to apply for EADs. Okay. And we don't typically work with any of those. I'm putting it here as options for you. Okay. Beyond those, there's other work visas that, again, are much more complicated. That's why we go with, and that's why the H1B is in such a demand, because it is as complex as it is the best path to get foreign nationals employed that have a professional degree. In some cases, you're really, really, really good. We potentially wouldn't even go O1 even if you could qualify for an O1, just because the amount of work, the time is significant. We have a few O's in the process right now, and they take a lot of time, even though it may seem, if you read online, oh, it's easy. It is not. And it's getting harder and harder, just like everything else. But you have to have a niche category. Basically, you have to be we have to show that you're very, very specialized on whatever it is that you do. We need to become very knowledgeable on what your niche is. And we have to show that you have recognition nationally or internationally, and that you're at the top of your field. That is very difficult to show. It requires a lot of asking for favors and following up with people. And again, if for some of you and for some of our clients, this is the way to go. But just know that it may not be as easy as you may read. Same for intercompany transferee. Some of you in the call, I think this may be an option for you. However, intercompany transferee is basically your employer has a related company abroad with a qualifying relationship, and all of these are terms of art. Qualifying relationship, qualifying position abroad, qualifying work abroad. All of that needs to be proven and researched. So you would literally have to go abroad, work for the company, the qualifying company abroad for at least a year, because the petition cannot be filed until you've been abroad for at least a year. So really, it ends up being more than a year. And once that petition gets approved, then you cancel a process, an L1, and there's an L1A and L1B, and you come into the United States that way. We may have done 2 or 3 Ls last year for non-qualifying H's. Again, it's maybe a few of you that could potentially consider this. Then there is also the TN. You have to be a Mexican or Canadian national in order to qualify. I don't think any one of you here would qualify, so I'm going to skip this. We do, in fact, the TN, sometimes we work it backwards because it's easier, much easier to process than some of the other visas that we work with. So sometimes we bring the foreign national in on TN, qualifying foreign national. And once they're in the United States on TN, then we put them through, the employer decides to put them through the lottery. So it's kind of the opposite. Okay. I'm going to give myself a little break and give you a little break from listening to me. I know I have, I have some questions on the chat, some that I'm not going to be able to answer. I'm going to take this one about some of you are going to be applying for your STEM OPT extensions. And as long the way it works, and I'm answering that one because I know some of you are going to be in that situation. You have to have filed your STEM OPT extension, again, within that qualifying period. USCIS has to have received it prior to your current EAD expiring. So there's various things in there. I have heard, we actually have had cases, again, we don't get involved in the STEM OPT extensions things. So I'm passing on what I have heard from others that have gone through the process. And basically they come to me because, oh my gosh, my EAD hasn't arrived. This, the other, got lost in the mail. 3 cases last year that the foreign nationals applied for the STEM OPT, it got lost in the mail. I believe that, and again, I'm not doing this on a regular basis, but there may be a way to expedite your STEM EADs. I don't know if that's the case. I would almost consider that just so that you have peace of mind. If you're having issues because you haven't received something, I would check with your DSO and see, but stay on it because it could take 4 months. It could take 5 months. Now, know that once you have applied for it and you have a receipt, you have an 180-day automatic extension of work authorization, another huge benefit from a STEM OPT. And I cover all of this in the presentation that I did, I think a week ago, actually last week, about I-9s. So if you have not have watched that, I'm going to stop talking about STEM OPT. There is a recording on my YouTube channel about it was about I-9s, but it covers all of that stuff. Okay. Back to some options that also are kind of far out there, but in some cases, this becomes an option. You are going to, when you go searching, because I know you will, you're going to find some people that talk about the H1B Cap exempt. And what resonates with them is like, oh, but all you have to do is to be a nonprofit. If it was that easy, every nonprofit in the United States would be applying for a cap exemption H1B. So it's not that easy. The cap exemptions are phenomenal if you can take advantage of it, if you can qualify. We have clients that are H1B cap exempt. We love it because, as the name suggests, they're cap exempt. We don't have to worry through the lottery. We can file their H1Bs when they get hired, but you have to be a qualifying institution. The clients that we have right now that are cap exempt are colleges and universities because they're like the example of a cap exempt H1B. Then if you have affiliated institutions, so if you're an employer, and for example, some of our clients are teaching hospitals that have affiliations with institutional higher educations because they're doctor interns or they're nurses or this or the other go through the benefit the institutional higher education. We have done cap exemptions for that. And then there's research organizations and governmental research organizations. So that world exists, but it's not as simple as it sounds. With that said, though, I am going to be exploring this with more clients because I feel that we need to give you the best advantage that you have. and there may be one or two or three of our employer clients that could qualify. I don't know. But this is, it's there. The other situation that could happen here is if foreign national, schools are dying for good teachers and good professors. If a foreign national can get a teaching position for a college or a university, and that college or university is willing to file a part-time position for them, then by having that H1B, an employer can file a concurrent H1B for that employee. Now, that employee needs to continue to teach, and that position with the college or the university needs to continue to exist and be valid for as long as the H1B with the non-exempt employer exists. So those two have to be concurrent. I've used this a few times. Again, I'm just giving you the icing in the cake. Okay, many of you are going to be asking me about green cards. Well, can my employer, can they just work on my green card? That would be awesome. However, and again, this is what I do. So I'm giving you this not because I don't want to work on your cases. That's our business, to give you green cards, give you work visas, all that kind of stuff. But I also want to be realistic for your employers and for you. Okay. Green cards are the green card process is a 3-step process. The first part of it is the labor certification that is taking right now about 2 years. It used to take a year, then a year and a half. Now we're up to 2. Most of you are going to have to go through that process at some point, but it will not give you work authorization ever. It doesn't lead to work authorization until you get to a green card. And the green card, so the labor certification is about 2 years. Then we move into the I-140, which is the second part of the process. If that's premium and it is approved, it may take 3 months. But even then, if you're from India, from China, or from some of the countries that are backlog, your case stops there. We cannot file an adjustment of status. And you can work, and you cannot stay in the United States. So this is why, for many of you, even though thinking employment-based green card is the dream, it was my dream before I became a U.S. citizen, but it will not give you a green card. It will not give you work authorization because of your priority days being so far out. So in order for us to make sure that this is workable, we need you to be on a work visa, like an H1B or a TN or an O or an L, something that allows you to be in the United States and work while the green card process takes place. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Right now, we have, I want to say maybe 4 nationals that are on TN, and we put them through the lottery the first year, we put them through the lottery the second year, and then I said to the employees, you know what, this is ridiculous. We talked, we strategized, we know that we have to be very careful with the timing and when we file certain things, but we are on board, we're working as a team, and we have started the green card process. I did not put them through the lottery this year because they have a TN that is good for 3 years. And they're from Canada, so they're not, they don't have a 15-year backlog or 6-year backlog. So once I get to the I-140 stage, I could potentially file for an adjustment of status and get them to a green card. For those on an O that are from China or India, that may be a little tricky. So again, there is much more to this process than just, let's start the green card process, because without an underlying work visa, I'm not helping you, or with a plan to give you an underlying work visa, we're not going to move where you want to go. Marriage to U.S. citizen. I kind of put this towards the end because I'm certainly not encouraging anybody to get married, to get a green card, or to get a work visa or anything like that. And believe me, it is also a very difficult process. There is a lot of fraud. There is a lot of denials. But with all that said, for many of you, you're young, you're graduating from school, you're starting the life where some of you may be considering marriage. And if you have a legitimate relationship with a US citizen that you intended to get married at some point in the very near future, hey, by all means, you can consider this, but do not go into it just because you were not selected for the H1B cap. Not worth it. Okay. Returning home. That may happen. That may happen to some of you. We had a few, actually, for good or bad. We had someone that was selected from China last year, was not selected under the H1B cap last year, and went home. And after he had been home for 4 months and rented a place and worked, he got selected in the second lottery. And now we had to bring him back to the United States. It was like it's so for that situation, you would have think, oh my God, yay. But it was a nightmare because he had already, he had gone through all the trauma of moving back home, getting an apartment, getting work over there. And now he had to give all that up. He's now in the United States working on an H1B visa. But seriously, there should be a better way. But I mean, it happened. It happened last year. So for some of you, it may be that you may have to go home for some reason or another. Know that you do have a 60 days grace period, meaning that at the end of your OPT or your STEM OPT, if you decide, you know what, I'm done, you do have 60 days to be in the United States. You cannot work, but you can, consider other options. If you decide to go home, you are not coming back. So, because you don't have anything to bring you back to the United States. And even as of today, or yesterday, I think I got a question from somebody about, I wasn't selected. Well, I was selected, actually. This is someone that was selected under the lottery, that we sent an email yesterday saying, congratulations, yay. So our selection rate this year was 25%, which is not great, but it's, it's a lottery. That's what we ended. So this one for a national, gifted one of those 25%. And the next email that we get is like, oh, could I just go home before you file for my petition? I'm like, oh, just please stay put. I mean, you only get a glimpse because we absorb a lot of the stuff that doesn't get passed on to you because I would drive you crazy. So I only let you see just a little bit that I think you need to see, just to give you a little bit of a hint that no, maybe that's not such a good idea. At the end of the day, we're all adults. You have to take the best decision that you can. But know that if you are on your 60 days grace period and you leave the United States, you're not coming back because there's nothing to support your entry. Okay. Okay. I've talked a little bit about the possible lottery. Who knows? Every year we go through this. I think USCIS have learned their lesson. I mean, it's a lot of work for them too. And frankly, my esteem of U.S. immigration services gets lower and lower every day. I wish I wouldn't say that because it's my profession, but it's just horrendous. Who knows? There may be another lottery this year. I cannot. And this is a question that you're all going to ask. Well, how many petitions were filed? How many registrations were filed? How many this? How many the other? USCIS doesn't release that information for a little while, and when they do, you literally have to they put it so deep in their website that it's almost impossible to find because it's shameful what is happening. So when I do find it, when they do release it, I will put it out there. Who knows when many they receive, but I can guarantee you that despite all their little efforts, that there were duplicate petitions filed, and those are not they cannot approve them. So, and there's going to be some shifts that are going to happen. there have to be a significant amount that get rejected or get, get filed inaccurately, which is going to happen. There is going to be a fair amount of the registrations that got selected that will never make it to approval for, again, many reasons. Some employers may decide, well, you know what? No, I'm not going to file, or like I said, it gets filed the wrong way, all kinds of reasons. I mean, the forms are new, the filing fees are new. There's so much new that if you have a group of attorneys or a team that is just doing H1Bs as one of the million things that they do in their practice, I can guarantee you they're not going to get filed right, because we do this every day, and every single day our team is learning something new that got buried somewhere that we need to know about. So there could be a chance that after they're done in June, so we have now 90 days to work with those that were selected and their employers to prepare strong petitions that get approved. And after June, last year was in August. The year before, I think, was in July, when USCIS announced that there would be a second lottery. And it was like hush, hush. All of a sudden, we started getting emails from my USCIS account saying, a change has happened in your case or something like that. And we were like, what? And so they had a second lottery. So it could happen. It could be some of you here, but you cannot bank on this for your future. If it happens, it's a gift. Okay. And hopefully you maintain your status by using day one CPT, by using a STEM OPT, by using whatever is available to stay, continue to do a phenomenal job, which I know you do. Otherwise, your employers would not be sponsoring you. And, we'll do this again next year. If we don't put you in, and this is another, benefit to some degree. And thank you, employers, for all of you that are here and are supporting this process, because you trusted us. And some employers take advantage of the 3-year STEM, don't put their foreign nationals through the lottery until the last year or until there's nothing left. And then they have one chance. And that one chance typically is none. So thank you all for being in this crazy process with us. Again, I wish it would be different. So I give you a yes if this was helpful. I was starting to see, I guess I put the slide up, but you guys started answering already. Thank you. I was like, what? Saying yes. Okay. Thank you. Because again, you don't know how hard I work on this. And I'm like, literally, I said to my team today, how can I bring positive energy to this webinar today when I'm just like, oh, I could just scream. One of the questions that I got here, has USCIS updated the lottery results? Yes, they have. So that was another glitch in the system. For the first time in like 10 years, we didn't get the email from USCIS that they had completed the lottery until, I believe, 2:00 yesterday afternoon. I kept on thinking, what is going on? So that's another example. So the results are out. For now, we're done. Whatever is there. And literally, we checked again this morning. I checked again yesterday night when we went to sleep. So yes, hope for a second lottery. I hope that too. Also, will the okay. Again, I'm not going to. Some of you are asking me about green cards. I kind of gave you my general idea of a green card. It will take 3 years to even get to the I-140 stage. You need an underlying status to get you there. Okay. I have mentioned the curriculum, the CPT, the one CPT. I also mentioned the I-9 webinar that I did that talks about STEM and the STEM extensions. So if this is of interest to you, I don't think this one is very long. I did it last year or the year before, but it really gives you good info. It is on my YouTube channel. You can screen. There's a lot. There's like 80 videos in there. I forget how much information is there. So it may be a good place for you to look. And if you have more questions about what we have talked about, you can use that scan code and send us the questions. I collect them. I use them sometimes to answer. I'm doing once a month. And if you're not getting my newsletters, please, I mean, I'm doing this for you. I don't need any more work, but I wanted to pass on truthful information to you that you can use. I'm not going to give you things just to hype for news. I'm only going to give you stuff that you can use. And so what I do with the questions that you send me, some we answer if we know who it is and it is applicable. But if it's something that is of general interest that I know is going to be good for others to know, I am answering those questions also on my Q&As that I'm doing once a month, just for all of you. Again, I take questions that are practical and that I think this is going to benefit you. So if you're not getting my newsletters, you can let your paralegal know that you're not getting my newsletters and they can send you a direct link and you can connect, you can get them that way. Sometimes they go to spam, so you have to approve us before you get them. Okay? Okay. And as we look ahead, I hope that there is a little glimpse of sunshine that is there for all of us as we move into the future. Again, this is tough work. It's hard for all of us. As much as I say to myself, this is just a job. Don't get emotional. We do because we work with people every day. We work with you. We know how important this is. So we go up and down with emotions with you, but we also have to stay positive for you and for us. So this is, my hope is that somewhere, someday, there will be more numbers, that this year there will be a second lottery, or three, and that, we can help you all find some peace and stability over the next few months. And again, thank you so much for being here with me, for trusting us and being our partners. Your teamwork is what allows us to do what we do. All right. Thank you very much. We will send the recordings out as we finish this up. Take care, everybody. Bye.